Do perfumes or fragrances make you ill? Do they trigger coughing, congestion, headache, or fatigue? If so, you may have multiple chemical sensitivity or MCS, an increasingly prevalent condition recognized as a medical disability.
Human rights law across Canada prohibits discrimination on the ground of disability and creates a duty to accommodate persons with disabilities in an individualized way, up to the point of undue hardship. Disability in human rights law is understood through a social model of disability. This means that disability is determined based on the interaction between the person and their environments and the barriers that are created in a particular context, which can include many different disabilities, such as multiple chemical sensitivities or environmental sensitivities.
Multiple chemical sensitivity, or MCS, is a condition in which a person becomes sensitized to chemicals emitted from commonly used consumer products. These chemicals are typically found in the air in most indoor environments. Unfortunately, people with MCS have developed sensitivity to these chemicals, either gradually from many repeated exposures over a long period of time, or from more intense exposures over a shorter duration. But once they're sensitized, even lower doses of exposures to these chemicals can provoke symptoms. To understand why this can occur, you need to understand that many cells in the human body have receptors on their surfaces that detect foreign chemicals, especially cells in the nervous system. These special sensors have existed on cells for billions of years, helping them to survive and evolve by reading and responding to foreign chemicals and changing environments. What has happened to people with MCS is that their chemical receptors have become sensitized. So not only are these receptors able to sense lower levels of chemical exposures, the cells expressing them produce more of these receptors on their surfaces, a process known as upregulation. As a result, these cells sense lower doses of chemicals than before, and they're hyperexcitable, and they respond abnormally to exposures that don't even bother other people. These receptors are called TRPV1 and TRPA1 receptors, and they're commonly found in our nervous system, especially on the sensory nerves. This hypersensitivity can lead to a range of symptoms being provoked from chemical exposures, usually including headaches, fatigue, difficulty concentrating, and respiratory symptoms, among others. People with MCS most often react to chemicals found in commonly used scented products, such as those used for personal grooming and care, including perfumes, shampoos, creams, and deodorants, in cleaning and laundry products like soaps, detergents, and fabric softeners, in building materials and products used for renovations, as well as pesticides and petrochemicals.
This creates a snowball effect. MCS can progressively worsen over time due to repeated exposures to various substances, leading to an increased sensitivity to additional new substances. Because of this, prevention is extremely important for managing the condition. The person may not even be aware that they are being affected by a certain chemical until they reduce their overall exposures. These interconnected patterns cause a chain reaction that necessitates the need for healthy least toxic spaces. If common chemical exposures, such as from perfumes, cleaning products, or personal care items, that were previously tolerated, and now provoke symptoms that occur in more than one organ system, including the brain, the respiratory system, skin, musculoskeletal, cardiovascular, and the digestive system, then you likely have MCS. For some people with MCS, the source of the onset of the condition is not always known. But for others, MCS often follows a significant, identified chemical exposure such as perfumes or colognes, renovations, new carpeting, working in a newly constructed space, in a building with a history of chemical contamination, or being exposed to pesticides. Others react to exposures such as traffic exhaust and fragrances. Many with MCS find fragrances, cleaning supplies, and air fresheners to be an exposure and trigger for their condition. For those with MCS, exposures to fragrance products are like playing Russian roulette. The term scent-free could mean that the product can have the same chemicals that are contained in a scented product, along with a masking agent to hide the smell. But people with MCS are reacting to the chemicals that emanate from a scented product, so they still react to a scent-free product. Fragrances. Do fragrances even have regulatory status? This is an important question, especially for those who suffer from multiple chemical sensitivity and need to know what ingredients are in their personal care and home care products. Let's take a closer look at the regulatory status of fragrance and how it impacts those with MCS. Fragrances are a key ingredient in most personal care and home care products, but manufacturers are not required to disclose fragrance chemicals on the list of ingredients as fragrance recipes are considered trade secrets. Let's take a look at the current regulatory status of fragrance ingredients in Canada and the European Union. In Canada, Environment Canada is currently assessing one synthetic musk, Moskine, under the government's Chemicals Management Plan and has flagged several others for future assessment. Health Canada recently announced regulations banning 6 phthalates in children's toys, including DEP, but the use of DEP in cosmetics is unrestricted. On the other hand, the European Union has stricter regulations. It restricts the use of many fragrance ingredients, including 2 common musks, nitromusks, and requires warning labels on products if they contain any of 26 allergens commonly used as cosmetic fragrances.
Fragrances are a key ingredient in personal care and home care products, but manufacturers are not required to disclose fragrance chemicals on the list of ingredients, as fragrance recipes are considered trade secrets. This system is supported by the International Fragrance Association, which is a self-regulating organization representing the interests of the fragrance industry that sets its own code of practice and safety standards.
The International Fragrance Association, or IFRA, has a list of ingredients on its website titled the IFRA Transparency List. However, it is crucial to understand that since fragrance formulas are trade secrets, their ingredients are generally not disclosed under the term fragrance or parfum on product labels. Over 100 ingredients can be contained under those terms. People with MCS could be genetically poor detoxifiers. If so, they will not be very good at breaking down and eliminating foreign chemicals from their bodies. This means that chemicals, to which they are commonly exposed to, are more likely to damage cells and cause them to malfunction. Data on the prevalence of MCS has been reported in multiple countries. In Canada, 1 in 34 people have a diagnosis of MCS. The Canadian Community Health Survey, Statistics Canada, has asked the question about MCS at certain intervals from 2000 onwards. From 2000 to 2016, the number of people diagnosed more than doubled to just over 1 million. In 2020, there were 1,130,800 diagnosed cases, 72% of which are women, and close to 50% are over the age of 55. In Canada, the number of diagnosed cases of multiple chemical sensitivity, or MCS, has been steadily increasing over the years. In the year 2000, there were 475,436 diagnosed cases, which rose to 1,008,400 in 2016, and further increased to 1,130,800 in 2020. In the years 2015 to 2016, it was found that 18% of those with post-secondary diplomas or university degrees were not working, and 34% of those with post-secondary diplomas or university degrees were not working due to MCS. Furthermore, 50% of women diagnosed with MCS and not working have a post-secondary diploma or university degree. Thus, MCS can significantly impact an individual's ability to work and contribute to the economy. Overall, it was also found that 41% of those with MCS couldn't work. Those with MCS also experience more hostility or conflict from coworkers in the workplace, due to their coworkers not understanding their condition and the accommodations they require. In terms of income and poverty, 26% of those working with MCS earn less than $20,000, while 65% of those not working with MCS also earn less than $20,000. When compared to the general population, people with MCS encounter challenges accessing healthcare and employment, and face difficulties with daily activities such as preparing meals, running errands like shopping for groceries, and performing everyday housework. 44.3% of people with MCS are dissatisfied with life compared to 26% in the general population. These statistics are based on the Canadian Community Health Survey conducted by Statistics Canada. Many people with MCS avoid social and workplace settings because of the widespread use of toxic chemicals and the community's unwillingness to accommodate with less toxic product choices like being fragrance-free. They live with a daily constant struggle to find healthy spaces to avoid triggers and live symptom-free. People with MCS often fall through the cracks of the systems in place to support, care for, help, and protect them. Those with disabilities, because of their specific needs, are more at risk of receiving suboptimal care. Affordable, healthy housing is hard to find, especially for those with MCS who need to avoid toxic exposures. For people on the lower end of the income scale, healthy housing is most often a serious issue and can result in desperation as homelessness sets in. MCS is a serious and debilitating condition, and we need to take action to protect the health and well-being of those with MCS. It's time to start making healthy, fragrance-free, least toxic choices to prevent further sensitization and disability. It's not uncommon for patients with MCS to also have allergies, arthritis, asthma, migraine or headaches, high blood pressure, chronic bronchitis, heart disease, thyroid conditions, chronic fatigue syndrome, stomach or intestinal ulcers, fibromyalgia, urinary incontinence, cataracts, bowel disorder, Crohn's disease, colitis, diabetes, emphysema, COPD, cancer, glaucoma, and epilepsy. The issue with MCS is that doctors are not traditionally trained to recognize, diagnose, and help patients with MCS while taking into account their disability and the chronic conditions they suffer from. As a result, there is a risk of misdiagnosis, where the doctor may mistake the condition for another, such as asthma or dermatitis. This lack of awareness and understanding of MCS within the medical community can lead to a significant gap in medical care for patients, potentially placing them at risk of harm. The diagnostic criteria, which were established in 1999, can help to diagnose MCS, so that it is not mistakenly diagnosed as asthma or allergies. It is important for the medical professional to understand the need for fragrance-free, least toxic products and optimal air quality required by MCS patients, and work to ensure that patients can have these healthy spaces at places of employment, healthcare, and other essential needs, by providing support in the form of a letter outlining the condition and the needs. Without this, the patient is left on their own, disabled, and suffering with no support. Patients with MCS often attempt to find healthy environments for exercise and walking, such as green spaces that are free of pollutants. They may also wear masks specifically designed to filter chemicals to reduce their exposure and symptoms. However, they are often forced to choose between necessary expenses and affordability due to the high cost of air purifiers, specialized masks, water purifiers, and expensive healthier housing options. Living in a shared accommodation, such as a building, can make life very difficult and hopeless for individuals with MCS, as they are continuously exposed to chemicals from their neighbors. This constant exposure can lead to persistent symptoms, ill health, and increased disability. Oftentimes, requests to neighbors for accommodation such as fragrance-free and least toxic product use are met with hostility, disbelief, and even an intentional increase in the use of offending products. These responses make the life of someone with multiple chemical sensitivity unbearable. It is a common feeling among individuals with MCS that there is nowhere to run and nowhere to hide. Therefore, awareness and education about the effects of chemicals on the human body are vital to ensure the well-being of all. To date, there is no known treatment for multiple chemical sensitivities. Good management of MCS depends on creating and living in a healthy environment free of triggers. Eating organic food, drinking clean water, and breathing clean air. Without this, improvement is not possible. To address the challenges faced by individuals with MCS, it is crucial to make changes in product choices not only for individuals, but also for accessibility and inclusion in workplaces, healthcare facilities, places of learning, places of worship, and pharmacies. In addition to these changes, the support of family, friends, co-workers, healthcare and other professionals is also essential to avoid exclusion and isolation and reduce the impact of loss experienced by those with MCS. Unfortunately, many individuals with MCS often experience abandonment during the times they need assistance the most, as support systems in place may not have sufficient education and awareness about the condition. The losses experienced by individuals with MCS are devastating. They lose the freedom to engage in activities they once enjoyed, and even simple tasks like grocery shopping can become extremely challenging or impossible depending on the severity of their MCS. A suitable home for individuals with MCS must prioritize the use of fragrance-free and least toxic products, as well as ecological solutions for all applications, including personal care, cleaning, renovations, furniture and furnishings, bedding, and mattresses. Advocacy and education are also crucial in raising awareness and promoting change. By advocating for their own rights and seeking appropriate accommodations in public spaces and the workplace, individuals with MCS can help raise awareness of this condition and promote its recognition as a legitimate health concern. Addressing MCS requires a multifaceted approach, one that involves improving research, diagnosis, and treatment, but also support healthy product use for prevention and management of this condition. Some industries have been allowed to put harmful products into Canadian markets that have been implicated in the development of MCS and other health conditions. Together, we can collectively advocate for systemic change that benefits the health of all Canadians, including those most deeply affected by the issue.
People with multiple chemical sensitivity, or MCS, often fall through the cracks of the systems in place to support, assist, and protect them, and often receive suboptimal services and support due to a lack of education and awareness about the impact of product choices on air quality. This creates barriers to accessibility and inclusion in healthcare, social services, and the justice system. For example, exposure to fragrances and other toxic chemicals in these settings can exacerbate symptoms and make services such as home care impossible. It's essential to understand that accommodating MCS is a legal obligation to support individuals with a disability, and it is not a matter of opinion or belief. Failure to take steps in appropriately accommodating, as for example, failing to modify product choices, can have severe and harmful consequences for those with MCS. As we accommodate to ensure that someone with a peanut allergy is not exposed to peanuts, the same applies to persons with MCS.
Have you become unemployed because your employer would not institute a fragrance-free policy? Are you homeless because you cannot find a place to live without fragrances that emanate from products? Do you or does someone you know react to perfumes, scents, colognes, fragrances, or other products used as cleaners or for personal use? Avoidance of these toxic products is key to good management and better health outcomes. Together we can reduce barriers to inclusion and advocate for better care for people with MCS. To educate and create awareness on multiple chemical sensitivities, please share this video and visit our ecolivingguide.ca for information on how to live a healthier life with the least toxic choices for everyday living. By understanding the causes and symptoms of MCS, as well as strategies for prevention and management, we can work towards creating healthier and more inclusive spaces for all individuals. Let us strive towards creating a world where everyone can thrive, regardless of their health conditions or disabilities. We share the air. So let's make healthier product choices, so we can all breathe well. We would like to express our sincere gratitude to all of our ASEQ-EHAQ community members who have shared their lived experiences with multiple chemical sensitivity, MCS. We understand that scent and fragrance-free, lowest emission, least toxic product choices have the biggest impact on removing barriers to accessibility for individuals living with MCS. Importantly, scent-free products may have only masked the scent by use of additional chemicals or masking agents, and thus even though these products may not have an odor, they can trigger symptoms for people with MCS, and are therefore barriers to accessibility. This video is part of the Empowering Community and Removal of Barriers project, funded in part by the Government of Canada's Social Development Partnerships Program, Disability Component.